Imagine if there was a world where superheroes exist. However, and they just do good thing, and we admire the superheroes doing it good. However, what if I told you something? What if the heroes that you idolize a lot are like secretly just like not good, and they're just really corrupt. They're self-serving within themselves and cause collateral damage. Well, you're in luck today, folks, because today I'm about to recap one of Amazon Prime's most notorious shows ever, The Boys. Based, the show is based off the comic of the same name by Garth Ennis and Derek Robertson. This series follows the eponymous team of vigilantes as they combat superpowered individuals known as Supes, who abuse their powers for personal gain and work for a powerful company, Vought International, that ensures the general public views them as heroes and nothing else. So, in preparation for the final seasons, which is coming out in April, I'm gonna do like a monthly recap of the different seasons, just like how I did with Stranger Things. And I'm really excited to do like this series, and by the end of the day, you guys will be really interested on what will be happening. So sit back, relax, enjoy the show as I recap The Boys Season 1. So we start off with one of them with Huey Campbell. He is just working at a TV store. It's not a pretty good job, but at least it's profitable. He's just chatting with his girlfriend Robin when suddenly, whoosh, a fast speedster comes through, and this unfortunately unalives Robin, and Huey just like is not in the right place. And this superhero that literally unalived Robin is A-Train, a speedster Supe who is one of the members of the Seven, which is basically a Justice League kind of ripoff. I mean, when I first heard about this show, I really knew that this isn't going to be your average PG-13 show. It's going to be all chaotic. But anyways, so Huey is like, hey, Vought, do you think you screwed up on this? So the lawyers offer Huey $45,000 in a settlement, which they don't blame the Supe. It's because if news about the Supe did this and that, they just go public and everyone turns against him. But Vought, they just throw it under the rug like nothing happens. Meanwhile, we are introduced to Anne January. She's the hero Starlight, and she's accepted to join the Seven, and following Lamplighter's retirement. Lamplighter's like this pyrokinesis person who has like this lamp thing, and he's like retiring, and she then meets like another member of the Seven, an Aquaman-like ripoff character known as the Deep, and I don't want to get too graphic detail, but he offers her to do something which Starlight doesn't want to do, but he kind of wants her, but enough of that. While Huey's working back at his place, he is then meted by Billy Butcher, who is basically like an R-rated Jack Sparrow who basically says a bunch of bad words in every sentence. So he poses an FBI, and he offers Huey a chance to expose superhero corruption by taking to a secret Supes club to show him security footage of A-Train laughing about what he did to Robin. So Butcher gives Huey a little small mission to take the settlement money and secretly place a bug in the Seventh Tower. Huey doesn't want to do it, and he's just like in the not right spot. And that's there in Central Park. Huey meets Anne, and they talk a bit, and they motivate each other to stand up to whatever things are pressuring them. And I just like how the actors do it really well. I gotta give credit to that. Anyways, so Huey manages to get the selling done, plant the bug, but Translucent, who is like this invisible man and like person who basically has like his skin go diamond thing, like invisible. He's an original character of the show, and I know he's like in placement for like the Jack of Jupiter, who's based like a Martian Manhunter bootleg, but I guess like the boys will keep things grounded for this universe. So I really didn't know that until I was researching this video, but anyways, let me continue. So Translucent's about to unalive Huey for what he did, but Butcher shows up in the nick of time and helps Huey and Cat take him out, and they put him in their car. Meanwhile, Homelander, who is like the Superman, the evil Superman version of the in this universe, destroys the mayor of Baltimore's plane while in flight and unaliving a bunch of passengers in response to the mayor's attempt to blackmail his boss at Vought International Company Vice President Madeline Stillwell. So Butcher and Huey take Translucent to one of the member of the boys, Frenchie, who makes a meta bullet to pierce to the hero's diamond heart skin, but this doesn't work. So while Butcher turns to CIA Department Director Susan Raymore on the Mallory files, but she refuses. More on that later. So Stillwell tells Homelander about the evidence that Deep found incriminating him on the plane crash because while Deep was underwater, he found like the scorch marks from Homelander's laser vision, and this is like one of the moments we see Homelander slowly losing his mind, like beneath like his like celebrity status, he is really just a not so good hero that I find pretty shocking whenever I watch The Boys. Oh, and there's Noodle right there. Looks like she's just coming to watch the show. Sorry guys, but anywho, where were we? So while when Translucent out, the Deep has to like forced work with Starlight on like a mission like in some docks area. So Starlight is like, hey, if you do that to me again, Deep, I will make sure you regret that. And I just like the acting that's really great. You can understand the amazing performances some of these characters have. Anyways, so there's still so yes, after a whole bunch of stuff that like Stillwell used some soup dopping to Black to do something with some senator into allowing to vote to enable Vought to contract superheroes in the military. So yeah. So meanwhile, the night Annie attempts to stop some woman being trying to get something bad happen, but her agent Ashley Barge, who's part of Vought, and I gotta say the actress for Ashley's pretty good, and she's like, oh, like, hey, if you do this, probably something will damage something. So while Homelander is on like search and hide up in the ground to look for Translucent, Frenchie places some C4 thing inside of him. I do not, and like I said, guys, I am not gonna go over the whole the crazy stuff, because if I do, that this video would be pretty much taken down, and I don't want that to happen. So anyways, so after a lot of pressure, Translucent freely confesses that A-Train was with his girlfriend Popclaw before he unalived Robin. So, and they're about to learn something big here. So the boys learn Homelander's nearby, and they can't risk using that C4 thing on Translucent to unalive him. So while Frenchie and Butcher create diversions elsewhere, Translucent escapes and tries to convince Huey to let him go. However, Huey, having just realized he can't go back on this, and he realizes these superheroes will just get away with everything, he decides to detonate the C4 and really doing the unthinkable. He has unalived Translucent, like turning that Invisible Man into a Coca-Cola explosion. So back at home, so Huey goes to change like his clothes because he got some stuff on him, and Huey just like explains how he just feels like what's going on, like how he doesn't like these soup things, and he started to go down a slow path. And I gotta appreciate Jack Quaid's performance. He's a really good actor. And a little fact for you, Simon Pegg, who plays Huey's father, he was originally supposed to audition as Huey in The Boys when it was adapted to a movie. But when that movie got to development hell, it was instead turned to a TV show. And I gotta really appreciate the acting. Top notch here. So Anne's gained some positivity after stopping something, but Stillwell wants to reveal some not so good costume, like, and it's just Stillwell. Annie says no, but Stillwell forced her to do so, at least or she'll lose her job. And this is like the exact view of like corporate pressure, how they are to people. And I gotta appreciate how this show manages to do that. And it's really shocking of how this is unfortunately in everyday life. Some corporate companies do some advantage some. So anyways, we are introduced to our next member of the boys, Mother's Milk, aka MM, to run some surveillance on Popclaw. And as Huey installs spyware on her computer, though they which A-Train takes some blue stuff that known as Compound V. We'll get more back to that later. So Butcher wants to expose them before Soups can be allowed into the United States Armed Forces, but they require a vow of Compound V from A-Train's upgrade race to another speedster, Shockwave. Beforehand, Huey meets Anne and invites her to lunch, to which they open up about each other. That's nice. Meanwhile, A-Train secretly uses some Compound V to win and publicly announces he is single, breaking his promise to Popclaw to announce their relationship. And it just really shows how A-Train is like really going high and above. Like when he uses this Compound V, it's slowly going him crazy, and I'm like shocked of how it is. Anyways, where were we? So with MM denuncing Popclaw to steal some vitals, and the boys find her heartbroken, and she's like going crazy, and she unalives some person who was like her landlord, and they get some information out. So at Vought HQ, Homelander presents Translucence was remaining of him to Stillwell, and there's a little message coming for you, which means there's like a heated rivalry between Billy Butcher and Homelander, and it goes far beyond, and we'll learn more about that later on in this video. So stick with me. So following Popclaw's tip, the boys go to a hideout, imprisoning a Japanese woman whom they call the Female. After Frenchie frees her, she unalives the guards and escapes, while MM finds evidence that she was a test subject. And we're about to learn more about this character, but this is like, in like the boys' comics, she was literally known as the Female, and like that's what you know. And I'm glad the boys, like this TV show, gives her like an actual proper name. I gotta give credit to that. So we're about to. What's next? Well. So with the supply of Compound V really compromised, A-Train has Popclaw going to hide while he searches for females. Meanwhile, Stillwell sends Homelander and Queen Maeve, and by the way, Queen Maeve is like the Wonder Woman of this universe, to save some hijacked liner. So Homelander, being like a lazy soup and arrogant he destroys a control panel, bans the planes, and forcing Maeve to leave him before she could rescue them. It just shows how Homelander is like doesn't care about anyone. He's just like, he's not like charming like Superman. He's just basically, if Superman had a pretty bad egg personality. And I gotta give props to Anthony Starr for his acting. He does great villain roles, but this has to be one of the best ones he's done, in my opinion. So the boys go after the Female as she wanders about, and they find her in Penn Station and make a military and Frenchie makes a military connection with her before he lost her in the crowd, and then Frenchie managed to distract the crowd, distract A-Train, allowing the Female to escape, and the boys get her, and they had to knock her out some knockout gas, but they bring her out. So Homelander Stillwell's pleased to see Homelander use the airline strategy to militarize while Maeve keeps for those she and Homelander are allowed to be unalived. And it just shows how everyone in Vaught's evil, and I really do feel bad for like Queen Maeve here. I just want to comfort her like a lot, and that's what I just want to do here. So we're like halfway through, and it's almost there, you guys. Just hang in there. So they're going to the Belief Expo, where Annie's quietly trying to push Vaught's agenda, while Butcher has Huey use her to meet Ezekiel. He's like this religious guy with long, stretchy arms, and most of this episode was like a bit questionable for some religious stuff. And I'm just like, dang, they're really going this route. So Huey goes like to talk with Zeke over this and that, and then so Maeve visits her ex-girlfriend Elena to get some comfort, and yeah, we learned that Queen Maeve is bisexual, and it's just like, and I really didn't know of like any of that until I was researching this video. A lot of stuff I need to do, and I'm doing pretty well at research. Props to me. So, anyways, Butcher talks to his sister-in-law. Meanwhile, Butcher talks to his sister-in-law Rachel over putting what happened to him over his missing wife Becca, and then later on, A-Train unalives Popclaw for betraying him. As he returns to the apartment, finds footage about Frenchie. When Ezekiel's alone, Huey extorts some information about Compound B. When Homelander rallies the exposed crowd with an improv hardline speech. Then when it's Annie's turn to be on stage, she opens up on what happened to her, what the Deep did to her, and that made some pretty good reputation. I gotta appreciate how Starlight did. She did really great up there. Huey later sympathizes with Fanny, and they become really good friends. And he tells her what happened to Robin, and it's a toll on him, and they're pretty good friends. They get really close, and I love that a lot from these actors. In the hospital, Butcher and them discover that Vought actually uses Compound V on infant babies to manufacture soups in years advance. Meaning, if they put the Compound V inside your infant, you literally get superpowers, and that is crazy. Like, that's the biggest mind-blowing thing I've ever seen. But anyway, Frenchie is looking after Kimiko. That's her name, by the way. And like later on, Frenchie names her. While attempting to escape, she then confronts like Black Noir, who is basically like the Snake Eyes and Batman of this universe. She puts up a good fight against Black Noir. Unfortunately, Black Noir manages to unalive the female, but she manages to heal from her wounds, and which confirms she's like a soup, and it just shows like really great character development like these characters have. So with this new information, the boys know that Vought has been using these things like the Compound V to disguise his vaccines to make super babies since 1971. So they've been doing this a while. This is like pretty crazy. So meanwhile, back at Vought Tower, Ashley got fired, and Stillwell demands Annie to comply with her design image, but she refuses, remarking that firing her after what happened with the Deep. And so yeah, Stillwell has the Deep apologize and transfers him to Sandusky, Ohio to lay low for a bit. So meanwhile, Butcher brings Huey to a superhuman survivors group, but leaves after yelling at him for doing nothing to get justice. Later, Butcher opens up on really what happened to his wife Becca. It turns out, like one day at Vought Tower, Homelander apparently did something to Becca, and she's been missing ever since, and it's just pretty sad. I feel bad for Becca. In the comics, it's pretty different, and it's really graphic what happens in the comics, so I will not say in this video just for YouTube's sake. So, really sorry about this one, guys. But if you want to read the boys' comics, you're going to have to read that. But I can't just say in this video. Sorry. So, Frenchie and MM get help from a telepath, Mesmer, who whenever he holds your hand, he just knows what you're thinking. And that's pretty cool power. I like the actor does him. So, we learn more about the female. Her name is Kimiko, and she was kidnapped by some Shining Light Liberation Army group. And they also learn that Vought is making Compound B boosted for some bad people to push their agenda for militarizing soups. Butcher tells Raynor, but he calls off the deal when she refuses to target Homelander. And then Mesmer blackmails the boys, giving Homelander those photos of the boys. And then Butcher also finds out about Huey and Annie, warning him not to virginize the Emily and threatening to tell her about Translucent. We are halfway done through this, guys, and we will get there, okay? It's just a few more words, and I'll be out the way. So Huey and Amy just have a good time at the hotel. They're unaware that Butcher followed him, and the Deep finds his transfer dull, and he cannot, and some fangirl who likes him just does that. Meanwhile, back in Vought Tower, Homelander is meeting with the Seven, discussing that Huey unalived Translucent, exploring Ezekiel, and A-Train unaliving Robin. Homelander accuses Starlight co-conspiracy, but Maeve defends her. And I just appreciate how Maeve went from a simple soup who doesn't care about one to someone who really cares for Anne. I gotta give the credit for the actress for Queen Maeve. She's really great. The boys really deduced that Mesmer betrayed them, so Butcher finishes him off alone, so no one else knows what happened. Huey attempts a compound B to distract A-Train and allow Kimiko to cripple him. Homelander asks Vought scientist Dr. Joanne Bellinger about Becca, who informs her that she was pregnant with his own child before claiming they both were unalived, and Vought covered up the whole crime. Questioning about the revelation's timing, Verboten regrets raising him in the lab, calling Homelander his greatest failure. Butcher asks Reyna to protect Huey and MM's families in exchange for evidence as Naim Reynolds challenges Silver and Vought. She learns that a superhero terrorist kneecap that caused the explosion, and it's pretty insane. So Annie confronts Huey, who explains that they use Vought to use a compound V before Butcher wounds Annie, and they escape. So this is the last episode, you guys, and I promise you this is just a few more paragraphs and then we're done. So the Pentagon classes compound V as a controlled substance, and the boys are now wanted fugitives, while Annie confronts her mother, angry being really pressured out. And I feel bad for Anne here. So meanwhile, an injured A-Train relapses for compound B. Butcher takes Huey to Colonel Grace Mallory, his former superior, and she refuses participation, but informs them about Homelander's connection to Stillwell and warns Huey about Butcher's desire for vengeance. The Deep learns that Stillwell has denied his return to Seven and suffers an emotional breakdown by shaving his hair, and I kind of feel bad for Deep, but he brought this on himself. That's how I'd say it. So Huey asks Anne for help, because meanwhile the other members of the boys have been captured by some bad guys, and he needs help. But she doesn't want to help him, meanwhile Queen Maeve, after seeing her old self reflected on her, Maeve opens up to Anne. Homelander confesses to Stillwell that he has made these soup bad guys, and Homelander's just wicked. At some black site, Huey helps Frenchie MM free Kimiko find their capture, and then Anne shows up and saves them. A-Train arrives to fight Anne until he suffers some heart attack and goes into some cardiac arrest. So Huey wants to stay to help, but Anne takes over so he can escape. So meanwhile, back of Butcher, he takes Stillwell hostage and hits her with some devices to debate Homelander, who unalives Stillwell. Butcher uses the bombs to try to take out Homelander for good, but Homelander saves him and takes him to some area, revealing that Butcher's wife, Becca, was hidden away to raise Homelander's own son. And that's how The Boys Season 1 ends. And I am really impressed how things went off, and it was really great of how this builds up. I am overall excited to see how things will go. I can't wait for you guys to review Season 2 of The Boys next month. But if you like this video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and what was your favorite moment in The Boys. Until then, this is Nate Reviews, and I can't wait to see you all next video. Bye.